So many sporting locations talk about their unique atmosphere, but in that respect, this place sets the ultimate standard. Once a year, it turns its port into a paddock, it turns its one-way system into a racetrack, it turns its city into a stadium. It's Ascot, it's Augusta, it's the boat show as well. But most of all, it's the Monaco Grand Prix. So welcome to the most glamorous weekend of the Formula One World Championship. It is an astonishing place, especially when it's bathed in the warm south of France sunshine that we have today, sunshine that we're promised for the whole of this Monaco weekend. There are those that say that this is no place for modern Formula One, but many more say that this is the ultimate place for Grand Prix motor racing, and we agree with them. Mind you, this is the only time this season that Mark Blundell and I will turn our backs on the heat and dust of the pit lane in order to take the glamorous option, but it is impossible to ignore a vantage point like this, isn't it?
It's fantastic, but this is the jewel in the crown, Steve, for drivers. You come here, you've got a challenge on your hands, you know that every single lap's going to be committed, and you've got to be so focused, and it's really a great experience for any driver to go around this circuit.
A little bit of mist over the mountains, but warm sunshine, just about ideal conditions.
Definitely so. These perfect conditions. You've got great visibility coming out the tunnel there, so it's not a problem. You've got good track surface temperatures coming up, so I think we're in for a stunning qualifying performance.
Well, while everything is perfection behind us, do you, though, subscribe to the contrasting view that maybe these two first qualifying sessions that we're in for could be absolute chaos?
I think there's a possibility of that. You've got to be out there. You've got to make sure that every single lap counts, because you know what can happen. Such a high risk round here. You take your eye off the ball, could be a red flag, could be somebody parked in that corner you're just about to enter. You must make sure you're on circuit at the right time to get that lap in.
Okay, before we get into the lineup and the potential for this qualifying afternoon, let's give you an idea of the lineup in the harbour behind us, and Louise Goodman is down there doing a bit of boat spotting.
There is so much more to this event than the racing. This date is a hot date on the social calendar for the rich and famous. And of course, if you're really rich, then you bring your super yacht down with you for the weekend. The hot place to moor up is by the T, over by the swimming pool. That's where you'll find the likes of Harrods boss Mohammed Al Fayed. Flavio Briatore's got his boat there as well. If you're really, really rich though, and your boat is so large it won't fit on the T, you have to moor up out on the harbour, the wall. That's where Chelsea boss Roman Abramovich has got his boat. It's virtually the same size as Stamford Bridge, and I'm reliably informed that it's not even the smallest boat in his fleet. He won't get such a good view of qualifying from out there, but it will be slightly quieter when the cars take to the track.
And here on the track and in the pit lane, this is where all the serious business happens. It's a beautiful place, by the way, much better than most pit lanes that we work in. Ferrari, they were absolutely stung. They were hurt by losing to Fernando Alonso in Spain. They're very annoyed. Michael wants to get Ayrton Senna's win record here in Monaco. McLaren, don't count them out. They're going aggressive today. They've gone for an aggressive tyre choice and fuel load, and this place really plays to their strengths. But the news from morning practice is that world champions Renault quickest once again. Fernando Alonso quickest from Michael Schumacher. Sporting manager Steve Nielsen, fancy your chances in qualifying?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, like always in Monaco, there's a huge element of luck, but the car's looking good, the drivers are confident, and I think we'll give it a good go.
Is this traffic really going to be as big an issue as everyone thinks?
Yeah, absolutely. The trouble is in Monaco, as everybody knows, the track is at its absolute best right at the end. Everybody knows that, so everybody's going to be out at the end, and there's nowhere to pass here. So it's a constant balance between doing enough laps, getting a clear lap, but being out right at the end.
Okay, we'll see what happens. Thanks very much, Steve.
Thank you.
The main headlines that take us into Monaco weekend A couple of days after the Spanish Grand Prix, Bernie Ecclestone got the signature of all remaining teams on a commercial deal through until 2012. Technical regulations remain to be agreed, but there's clearly a new spirit of cooperation in Formula One. The sport is still waiting for a decision from Kimi Räikkönen on where his Formula One future lies. Renault, now also committed long-term, are becoming a stronger contender for his signature, along with Ferrari and current team McLaren. But with Valentino Rossi saying no to Formula One and Ferrari, a small piece of the driver jigsaw has been removed. Celebrating this weekend are McLaren. Monaco marks 40 years in Formula One for the team and will be celebrating the anniversary in our race build-up tomorrow. McLaren have won 13 times at Monaco. They feel they've got a strong chance this weekend, and Kimi Räikkönen needs to do something to reduce the advantage that Fernando Alonso is building in the Drivers' Championship. After his win in Barcelona, Alonso is 15 points clear of Michael Schumacher and 27 points ahead of Räikkönen. Juan Pablo Montoya is among the McLaren drivers who have won here before. McLaren winning here at Monaco 4 times in the last 8 years. Räikkönen triumphant last year. And it's a circuit that to some extent you can ignore recent form. It makes such different demands to anywhere else. It's a driver's circuit, brave driver's circuit. Martin Brundle helps us take a closer look.
We're joined by Works Toyota driver Ralf Schumacher to take a look at the 2-mile lap around Monaco. Ralf, your best position here, 3rd in 2002. Do you like this place?
Yeah, it's a great place. I mean, it's a challenging circuit for all drivers, I guess. You know, to make it through a race here without touching a barrier is not easy.
Do you make fundamental changes to the car with the setup or pieces you put on it just for this race alone?
Not really. I mean, you tend to do maximum downforce. A lot of teams come with new aero packages for that race because you don't need to be particularly efficient. Just you need the downforce. But the car itself, you know, you tend to go softish to have some flexibility in the suspension and so, but there's nothing particularly on it.
Now, I feel able to ask you this question because I smashed up 2 cars in Tabac Corner. You had a problem here last year in Tabac where you just had a little kiss of the barrier on the way in. I mean, it's so easy to do here, isn't it?
Well, the barrier moved on me, that was why. But it's definitely easier because it's the line between, you know, trying to be fast. If you want to be fast, you have to risk. You have to be close to the barriers, and sometimes you're that much too close.
Okay, let's go on board with you then and take a lap. It's a nice clean lap down into Saint-Devote. What's the challenges here?
Well, it's quite bumpy in braking, so you know, a lot of people go straight there and you just miss the apex and hit the barrier if you're not careful.
Over into Massenet then, Casino Square. It's like you're in a spaceship going up there.
Yeah, there is a dip in the Casino corner, which tends, you know, you have it really easy to fly out basically. And again, another danger corner here, braking into there and into the X-Loews corner, easy to just understeer as you see. You know, it's a full steering angle corner to make it.
Yeah. Poitiers then onto the seafront and heading into the tunnel, but it's not as dark as it used to be in there, is it?
No, special lighting, so it is a little, you know, just for a second you have to get used to it, then it's fine.
Full throttle easy through there?
Full throttle easy, it's resurfaced a year ago, so it's great then.
Hitting the curbs then quite hard there, you need to just pull the car around on the curbs. Now your favourite corner, Tabac.
Yeah, it's quite important. I mean, it's a quick corner. You just have to hit it right, otherwise you get too much understeer and you can't go at the speed you want to. This chicane, swimming pool chicane, is quite important as well. To hammer through it, curbs again, and just have a good exit.
Now this last corner's off balance, off camber, yeah? Oh, it's so easy to slap the barrier there.
Oh, it is, but with the traction control, that became a lot easier, I have to say.
Well, the lap is soon over, isn't it? And it's quite breathless, but I used to find here, you've been going what you seem like a long time, and then they show you 50 laps to go in the race or something. It's quite stressful, isn't it?
It is a very long race, and because you have to be so 100% concentrated at all time, you know, it just feels like ages as well. Yeah. There's a really fine balance between 100% concentrated and never lose it, because otherwise you just make this little mistake, you brake 5 meters too late, and you will hit the barrier eventually. It happened to me, as it did to you, I guess, so you know about it.
All right, thanks for your insight into the lap.
But it does make such demands, Mark. Why are drivers so enthusiastic about this circuit? What is the buzz they get?
I think you turn up here and you know that it's going to be just a big challenge. Every single lap, you've got to be committed, you've got to be focused. and you've got to be precise. You come into several corners and you've got to just make sure you get your wheels hooked into the gully. You know that if you don't, you miss it, you're going to lose a couple of attempts, and it's all valuable stuff. But for me, it's just the challenge of it. A street circuit is very special, and this circuit in particular is totally unique.
And it's getting faster and faster. This is one circuit where the reduction to V8 power from the V10s is not so relevant. Could we be seeing lap records during this weekend?
You know, I think I've been impressed so far with the lap times, and there is a big possibility, Steve, that those lap times will drop even further once the grip level goes up on the circuit. But you're spot on. With the power difference, it doesn't make such a big change to the track in terms of getting the car around it quickly.
But as regards qualifying, tactics, all important. Let's go back to Ted Kravitz in the pit lane.
Yes, absolutely. And it's the first time, Steve, for many years that we've had all the cars together on the same track and at the same time in qualifying. So getting that clear lap is going to be absolutely vital. And here in the back of the Williams garage, they've got a very clever secret weapon to help Rosberg and Webber get a clear lap.
It's a system that gives engineers on the pit wall a real-time display of where all the cars are around the track, which then enables them to place their driver in a gap so he won't get traffic. This blue dot at the bottom of the screen is Mark Webber. He's got Montoya behind him, so he's not going to get in the way. The danger man for Williams is Albers in the Midland just ahead. It's a slower car, and in this case, Webber will catch him up and likely have his lap ruined. But there's another potential pitfall for the drivers to deal with in qualifying.
But what you can never guarantee, of course, is a car coming out the pit lane. So the team can do everything right, tell you at the Rascas to go for it, and then by the time you get to the end of the pit lane, you know, 6-7 seconds later, another car's come out. They can tell you there's one coming down the pit lane, but if you've committed to the last corner, it's too late.
Well, let's find out from one of those drivers driving the slower cars. Tiago, I mean, do you have any sympathy with these guys complaining that they might be blocked by a slower car?
Well, you know, it's the same for everyone here, you know. I guess anyone could be blocked, anyone could lose the time. Even the slower cars with the quicker car, if he's in the in-lap and he doesn't play the game. So I guess it's going to be up to the drivers to really use their heads, you know, for once, and be clever about it. Because if you upset someone, you know, one day or the other is going to give it back to you. So I hope everyone plays the game. I think it should be all right.
Okay, thanks very much. Have a good one.
Mark, exactly what is the protocol out there? What are slower drivers required to do, genuinely required to do in those sort of situations?
Well, I think, you know, the slower guys will try and get out of the way, but they've got every single right to be on the circuit. They're trying to get their lap time put in. If they make 5 or 6 positions on that grid, that's a big jump forward for them. But the quick guys will always want a clear circuit, and they're always going to get somebody blocking them, and you're going to get those moans and groans. But that's just a fact of life.
Information from the team is all important, as we saw in that piece. Are there any other methods that drivers can find space out there on the circuit?
Not really, Steve. I mean, it's just a little bit of luck of the draw. But, you know, there used to be guys like Senna, for instance. He used to roll out the pit lane with maybe 2 minutes to go, and somehow he always managed to get a bit of space. You see that now with people like Alonso and Schumacher. It's just something a little bit special. It's like a sixth sense.
I don't know whether being a local resident helps you beat the traffic, but Jenson Button certainly falls into that category, and Louise met up with him a little bit earlier.
This is a crazy place for a Grand Prix. It would never make it onto the calendar in a modern age if you decided to host a race here, but it is quite something, isn't it?
It is. It's very spectacular, and there's a lot of history here at this Grand Prix, and it's a circuit that a lot of the drivers love coming back to because it is that little bit special. You know, racing around the streets of Monaco, I mean, wow. And the speeds we get up to around here are just crazy. You know, we're doing 180 miles an hour around the streets of Monaco.
It's a bit of a comeback for you this year, isn't it?
2003 that I watched it from the hospital bed. Finished in 2004 second, just behind Trulli.
Welcome, a different experience for you here this afternoon.
Last year I was commentating, so it was different. But this year hopefully it'll be a good year. You know, it's difficult. You know, the Renaults are very strong and the Ferraris, but we'll see what we can do.
Qualifying is going to be, I think, interesting is the polite way to put it. It's going to be mayhem, isn't it?
It is, yeah, it is. I think Quali 1 and Quali 2, you know, everyone's just going to be out there for the whole session. It's not going to be about new tyre runs, I don't think so much. It's going to be about getting a clear lap. Quali 3 won't be so bad because, you know, there's only 10 cars in the circuit, and I'm sure we can be grown-ups about it and we can find a clear space for us all on the circuit.
I've got this feeling that if it's going to go well for you anywhere, it's going to go well for you here, because this is a driver circuit as opposed to a car circuit, isn't it?
Yeah, we sort of thought that before practice, but we had a little bit of a difficult day in practice, and but you know, we've improved the car throughout the day of practice, and we're getting there, but you know, we're not quite there yet.
What about the rest of the event? It's one of those races where there is so much going on. There's more going on off the track than there is on the track in many ways.
Yeah, there is. You know, it is a very glamorous race. You know, most races in the F1 calendar aren't glamorous like people think, but Monaco is. And you know, you've got all the boats in the harbour. It's pretty spectacular, and there's so many different events going on through all the sponsors. And the weather's great, which is another great part of this Grand Prix. It's always good weather.
Some of the biggest boats and some of the fastest boats as well.
It's a lot of fun. You know, it does 80 odd miles an hour, 75 miles an hour, and it's very bouncy.
Jensen and Louise in the safe hands of multiple world powerboat champion Steve Curtis for that little jaunt. Now, much has been made of the challenge of finding space out on the track this afternoon, but finding space anywhere adjacent to the track here is also a huge challenge. The expanded pit lane complex has made life just a little bit easier, but on the other side of the track from the swimming pool and Rascasse, extra space has been found for the Formula One paddock, and it's much needed extra space given the grandiose scale of the modern Formula One hospitality units. But no extra space has been found for the huge Red Bull energy station. They wanted more room for a large sun terrace, a Formula One car display, a Superman theme, more on that tomorrow, oh, and of course a swimming pool as well. It meant that the whole thing had to be built on a barge along the coast and floated into position here. It's the kind of thing that can only happen in Formula One, and among those most impressed was their own Toro Rosso driver, Scott Speed.
So check this out, 70 trucks brought this big hunk of metal here, and 50 people worked straight 14 days to put that thing together on this thing. And it's not even done, we're still just shipping it to Monaco. Yeah! Rock and roll! This thing is floating on pontoons and being shipped 10 kilometers to Monaco, and yet it's fully operational, electricity, internet. When we get there in Monaco, it's just gonna be like home at any other Grand Prix. So last night, the tugboat pulled the energy station out of the Boyer Harbor, and it's now arriving here this morning. It took about 4 hours because they're traveling at a speed of 3 to 4 knots. So right over there next to the Formula One paddock is where we're docking this huge energy station. It's 15 meters by 35 meters in width, and it weighs itself 200 tons. Together with the barge and the whole assembly, it's going to be 500 tons of mass sitting in that harbor. You see the energy station here docked in its final resting position for the next week, waiting the Grand Prix is great. And this year they've done some really cool new things with having a swimming pool on the side and having such a big energy station. It's going to blow everyone away, I'm sure.
Well, rest assured, the S stands for Superman, not Scott Speed, but the American does seem to be rather pumped up by the whole Monaco experience. Mark, maybe the message is be very wary of Mr. Speed in the first qualifying session.
Oh, well, check this out, Steve. I think he's been drinking too much of his own product. The guy's wired, but yeah, he's certainly pumped up, that's for sure.
And he was also done for speeding during the practice session this morning, speeding in the pit lane as well.
Well, and fined $1,750, which I hope is for his benefit in that currency. But yeah, he's got to just watch it. He can get caught out here very easily.
OK, the sport is full of strong personalities, and they'll be putting their wares on show in a fascinating qualifying session, which is about 5 minutes away. Let's first of all give you another reminder of what's in store on the ITV F1 website. It's where you find all the latest news and stats and opinion from the ITV F1 team. And it's where you can also put your questions to Mark Blundell for him to answer in our question mark feature during the race build-up. paddock@itv-f1.com. It's the place for some great competitions as well. At the Spanish Grand Prix 2 weeks ago, we asked you which British driver is part owner of a hotel here in Monaco. Well, that's David Coulthard, correctly identified by Gabriel Rohan, who won 2 tickets to be here as our VIP guest this weekend. Great prize on offer for the British Grand Prix as well.
To celebrate our home race, the British Grand Prix, in a fortnight's time, Honda are giving away a fantastic prize. It's a Civic Type R. You'll also get 2 grandstand tickets for the whole Silverstone weekend and have the keys to your prize car handed over by this fellow.
Hey, I'm Jensen Button. For your chance to win an awesome Honda Civic Type R and to meet me at the British Grand Prix, you need to answer this question. What was the first year I competed in the British Grand Prix at Silverstone?
Pretty simple, isn't it? So that's in which year did Jensen compete in his first British Grand Prix? Was it A, 2000, B, 2003, or C, 2005? To enter this great competition, courtesy of Honda, just call 0901 293 2020 or text F1 plus your answer of A, B or C to 63337. Entries cost £1 plus the standard network rates, and hurry up because the lines close midnight this coming Thursday, the 1st of June.
Good luck, and I will see you there hopefully.
At a gathering this week, Silverstone were keen to get across the reminder of the early place in the calendar for British Grand Prix. So tickets still available, a lot going on, and the new BRDC President Damon Hill promised you'll still see England in the World Cup as well.
A lot of people think it's going to happen in July, and so they're waiting and sort of sitting back and expecting it to happen, and it's not. It's going to happen in June. Tickets are available, and there's a good chance we could sell out. There's a very short timescale now in which to do that. Well, Silverstone is putting on some screens so that you can actually watch the first England match on the Saturday. So if you're coming on the Saturday, don't think you're going to miss the football, because you can watch qualifying and the match at the same time. Could be tricky, but it's going to be possible.
Yes, see all the big stars like Juan Pablo Montoya at Silverstone. And rest assured that you can see qualifying live, then turn your attention to England versus Paraguay on the big screens. Every reason to be at Silverstone in 2 weeks' time, but every reason to concentrate on what's going to happen during the course of the next hour to Jenson Button and the rest during the course of a fascinating qualifying session. The Renaults, the Ferraris, Michael Schumacher, still a man to catch, and Fernando Alonso fastest in practice this morning. Mark Blundell, nothing really changes.
Nothing changes at all at this present time, but he's only a couple of attempts off, Stephen. I think the big thing for me is that the Michelin and Bridgestone look quite even in terms of performance. So I think this qualifying really is going to be a showstopper.
How big an element are the tyres? It's not been a happy track for Bridgestone in recent years. They're working hard on a softer compound, which they need around here.
Yeah, definitely, but I think what's going to happen as well, as you go throughout the weekend, the rubber gets laid down, and it basically just produces a bit more grip for the guys, and Bridgestone definitely seem like they've got a lot of progress in the tyre development.
Okay, we're heading for qualifying very shortly, and rest assured it's going to be the ultimate congestion charge around Monte Carlo, the streets of Monaco, thundering to the sounds of F1 qualifying at its tightest, at its most competitive, and its most congested as well. Join us in a couple of minutes for qualifying here at the Monaco Grand Prix.
Здравствуйте, друзья, с вами РЕН-ТВ, российский голос Формулы-1 в прямом эфире из Монако, где буквально через несколько минут начнется квалификация перед жемчужиной чемпионата, перед 7-м этапом этого первенства 2006 года. В 64-й раз завтра состоится Гран-при Монако, и практика показывает, хотя иногда, конечно, это бывает далеко не так, но чаще всего тот, кто завоевал здесь pole position, сделал практически половину дела. Вот следом за Кристианом Хорнером мы видели, как два тест-пилота прошли: Нил Яни, третий пилот Торо Росса, и Хайки Ковалайнен, третий пилот Рено. Они свое дело уже сделали. Ковалайнен на тестах, естественно, не здесь, в Монако, потому что у Рено нет возможности выставлять третью машину. Но до этого Дитер Матешец, владелец команды, вот на втором плане рядом с Кристианом Хорнером, собственно говоря, тим-менеджером. И вся эта публика медленно из паддека перемещается на питлейн. Почему пешком? Потому что паддек и питлейн здесь расположены в двух разных местах, в этом особенность Монако. И то нужно заметить, что пару лет назад было сделано очень многое, чтобы у команд хотя бы появились постоянные боксы. После того, как была расширена набережная, вот Михаэль Шумахер, не удивляйтесь этому комбинезону, он всего на одну гонку, разовое, скажем так, явление специально для Гран-при Монако. Сам Михаэль признался, что эта идея пришла ему зимой во время традиционного сбора горнолыжного сноубордистского Мадонна ди Кампильо, который проводит Феррари на этом итальянском горнолыжном курорте. Там, естественно, цвета чуть-чуть более броские, чем традиционно в Формуле-1. Вот Михаэль Шумахер решил ради этой гонки звезд, как иногда называют Монако, использовать такой нетрадиционный комбинезон. Многие также здесь будут выступать в шлемах, которые один-единственный раз, как у Кими Райконена, будут присутствовать только здесь. Рубенс Баррикелло и вовсе будет выступать в шлеме Тони Канаана. Причем в эти же выходные в Америке 500 миль Индианаполиса, и там Тони Канаан будет выступать, соответственно, в шлеме Рубенса Баррикелло. Так что можно сказать, что вот эти пилоты будут присутствовать как бы в двух обличиях участиях на этих двух самых легендарных гонках Формулы-1. Если говорить о легендарных гонках, я думаю, что ничто вам так не поможет окунуться в эту атмосферу, как специальный сюжет нашего корреспондента Вадима Микиртычева, который мы и предлагаем вашему вниманию.
Выигранный, неважно кем, пол-позишн в Монако позволяет с большой долей уверенности предсказать и победителя всей гонки, как это было, например, в прошлом году, когда Кими Райконен, стартовав с первой позиции, так никому и не позволил обогнать себя. Поэтому здесь, в Монако, команды настраиваются на победу особенно жестко, намного серьезнее, чем при подготовке к другим этапам Формулы-1, в надежде выжать максимум преимуществ с городских улиц Монте-Карло. В Монако все по-другому. Закон княжества запрещает болидам разрывать тишину и ранить нежные уши подданных его высочества в пятницу. Посему пятничная практика в Монако проводится в четверг. В остальном все согласно регламенту. Массовый старт в 11 утра и ну сжечь резину. Особенно это касается тест-пилотов. Эти смелые парни, в отличие от пилотов основных, ни в чем не знают ограничений, поэтому не жалеют ни себя, ни резины. И с самого начала Энтони Дэвидсон, тест-пилот Хонды, приступил к воплощению этого правила в жизнь. Однако Фернандо Алонсо свел все его старания на нет. Результат Алонсо попытался было улучшить Михаэль Шумахер, но выше 4-го места красному барону подняться так и не удалось. В борьбу пытался вмешаться и Кими Райконен, и все бы ничего, да техника подвела. Айзману пришлось звать на помощь пожарную команду. Второй заезд получился более динамичным, но как гонщики не старались, тон после перерыва задавали тест-пилоты. Давидсон, Дорнбос, Кубица, Вурц. С каждым кругом они ехали быстрее и быстрее. Но потом Давидсон встретился с отбойником. Его примеру последовал Кубица. В итоге лучшее время показал Александр Вурц из Вильямс.
Конечно, для меня лучший результат в свободной практике – это здорово, это успех. Я использую пятничные заезды, чтобы показать всем свой талант. Посмотрите на нашего третьего пилота, он очень быстр. Ну а мы в практике не слишком выкладываемся, особенно в первый день. Надо беречь и шины, и двигатель. Так что не стоит обращать внимание на цифры. Мы обязательно прибавим.
Ну, пожалуй, самый большой сюрприз преподнес Мидленд, по крайней мере, так считает в команде. С этим, безусловно, можно либо соглашаться, либо нет, однако 12-е место Тиаго Монтейро – это хороший повод сказать большое спасибо инженерам и механикам.
12-е время – это, понятно, очень хорошо. Не так уж и далеко от первых рядов. Но надо хранить спокойствие, потому что уикенд длинный, и очень легко совершить ошибку.
После окончания практики падок мгновенно опустел. Пилоты, раздав интервью, вернулись в боксы к механикам на разбор полетов. Пятница в Монако для гонщиков – выходной день. Надо же набраться сил перед квалификацией. Тем более, что выбор вечеринок на вечер пятницы огромен до безобразия.
When Formula One introduced its new system of highly competitive knockout qualifying, everyone said yes, but how's it going to work on the streets of Monte Carlo? Well, we're about to find out. Stand by for Monaco Mayhem, watched by Martin Brundle and James Allen.
Thank you, Steve. Hello, everybody. Well, I can't remember when I felt so excited about a qualifying session. Martin and I were out on the circuit this morning, spectating, standing 2 or 3 feet away from the cars as they flashed past us through Tabac Corner at 90 miles an hour. Then we went down to the swimming pool and they were pointing straight at us at 135 miles an hour. It's like putting cotton through the eye of a needle at that sort of speed. Absolutely tremendous challenge for all the drivers. People criticise this place. They say it's an absurdity, an anachronism. They say it's like riding a bicycle around your living room. But rest assured, there are quite a lot of serious racing corners on this track. It requires total commitment and plenty of challenge. It's a proper racetrack. That's why all the drivers really enjoy it. One of the big aspects of it is that these early corners here are blind. There's quite a lot of blind corners on this track, and you're never really quite sure as you drive into it exactly what's going to be lurking for you on the other side, Martin. Slower cars, that kind of thing. We know that what is absolutely fundamental with this new style qualifying format, where we're going to have 22 cars out on track, all going at varying speeds, the drivers have to have respect for each other over the course of the next hour, don't they? They have to respect each other and give each other room.
Yes, the problem is, though, you're going to find somebody backing up to get himself some space and 2 or 3 doing the same thing behind him, only to have another car coming along at lightning speed on a hot lap. So there are going to be some tears. People are going to spit the dummy, no doubt about it, because they're going to concentrate. I think particularly in that second qualifying session, 22 cars out there, they've got to get out and get a lap on the board. If there's a red flag situation, remember, in this first 15-minute section. When the flag drops, the clock stops. So they've got to have got the time in. Now, they can do a second fast lap around here that may be a tenth or two slower than their ultimate time. So they've got that comfort margin, but there are a few teams out there under pressure. Toyota would be one of them. And I think also even a BMW, amazingly, could be a little bit under pressure, even in this first qualifying session. The Midlands are going extremely well, and so are the Toro Rossos. And we could see somebody like Liuzzi upsetting one of the Grandee teams early on in the next 13 minutes. So this is going to be frantic, and the second session is going to be even more so.
Well, also looking good this morning, as you'd expect. Renault at the front, Ferrari, Michael Schumacher and Fernando Alonso having a private duel as they have for the last few races. That will be spectacular over the course of the next hour. Fisichella looks lively here as well. The McLarens look a little bit more pacey than they have of late. And don't forget, Kimi Raikkonen started this race last year from pole position and won it, of course. These guys look quick. Liuzzi and Scott Speed were impressive, but also the Red Bull team. David Coulthard in particular, very quick all weekend, basically 5th fastest in free practice on Friday, and right up there in the top 10 again this morning. So this has been the first proper lap we've seen in the session. Liuzzi looks not to have been held up too badly by traffic anywhere around this lap, and he goes through the early marker, a 17.1. Now, this morning he did a 16.1, and he would have just made the cut. So he would not have been one of the slowest 6 cars this morning, with a lap time, Martin, a second faster than that. So, and of course, this track ramps up more and more. It gets faster and faster the more rubber goes down.
You're aiming very much at a moving goalpost. The track's alive, it's a living thing. It just gains speed with the rubber. I noticed they put the Porsche Super Cup race back to 6 o'clock tonight. I'm sure the drivers would have been squinting, because often there's a lot of accidents. You get glass, debris. They've got different tyres in the Porsche that are much harder, and they're going to lift up the Formula One rubber. So to a certain extent, and there you have it. There's a driver trying to get himself some space into the pit straight, holding up Alonso. But I think all of them, James, will be out on old tyres at the moment, the best of what they've used so far this weekend. And just to go and play themselves back in, understand where the track is, and then nail one. Coulthard goes second, Alonso fastest at the moment.
It wasn't just any old driver though, Martin, it was backing up, it was Juan Montoya, who I know a number of drivers were concerned that he has a habit of holding things up at the Rascasse, giving himself the absolutely perfect lap, as is his right. But, well, it was him that Alonso encountered first of all, and it appeared to have cost him a little bit of time, although Montoya, it has to be said, was quick on the throttle to get out of his way. Coulthard then is third. Scott Speed goes fastest, 1:16.236. Alonso, Jenson Button now goes quicker as well. Alonso drops down to third, Coulthard fourth, Liuzzi fifth, Klein sixth, Villeneuve seventh, and Heifeld eighth in the early stages. And we've yet to see a lap from Michael Schumacher or Juan Montoya, but we have 20 cars out on the racetrack at the moment. Here's where we were standing this morning, just to the right of that Umco barrier, the swimming pool section, 135 miles an hour before they hit the brakes for the second part, and Alonso's going for another lap. Does he know he's coming in, I think?
Well, with 20 cars on the track, if you work it out, there cannot be much more than 150 metres between them all, and that's if they're equidistant. So that's the kind of congestion that Steve was talking about earlier on in the show. Truly's gone fastest for Toyota, a 1:15.3 on a new set of tyres. I think Toyota will just have to keep throwing the tyres on to get themselves out of this first danger zone.
Yep, there is Trulli. One of the things you need around here is a supple car, a car that can get up over the curbs and not be too destabilised, particularly down at the chicane at the end of this tunnel sequence. And the Toyota looks very rough over there. It lands badly in comparison to, say, the Renault or the McLaren, which is much more supple. Watch, over the curves, jogging around, bouncing around on its wheels. It's all delay before Trulli can really nail the throttle, isn't it, Martin?
Yeah, I mean, he was really struggling this morning. Looked like he'd never seen the place before, and he's a winner here with a very spectacular victory. But fastest man out at the moment, as I say, I'm pretty sure that he's on fresh boots. Ted's got news at Ferrari.
Yeah, and here's an example of the clever tactics. Ferrari have been studying everybody's sort of past previous history as to when they go out and set their laps. So they didn't do anything for the first 5 minutes and only just sent both Massa and Michael Schumacher, as you've just seen, out now. And the McLarens are bringing everyone in. So this might work well for Ferrari.
Yep, McLaren out on track. Raikkonen currently 12th fastest on a 160. Oh, Massa's off! Felipe Massa has gone off the racetrack. And, well, we've seen the red flags being shown for incidents. Charlie Whiting, the race director, doesn't want to take any chances with safety here, particularly when a car is in a dangerous place. That is definitely a dangerous place. And Charlie Whiting, the race director, not surprisingly, throwing the red flag. So Massa is definitely going to miss the cut. He is the first member of the F1 royalty, if you like, to get the bum's rush here in the first part of qualifying.
Yeah, and who's he dragged along with him? The only other man not to have put a sensible time in, Michael Schumacher, has got caught out trying in a red flag situation. Schumacher's time won't be counted, and Michael Schumacher then caught up in his teammate's incident effectively. That's the top of Casino Square where Massa's got it wrong, presumably on the way through. Has he slapped that bit of barrier that comes out and surprises you every time you go through there? We'll have to wait and see. I suspect he might just have nerfed the barrier earlier on in Casino Square on the left-hand side and damaged. Let's have a look and see how he got it wrong. He's running quite wide there initially, and well, that's strange. He just lost the back end as if he just hadn't got tyre temperature. That's really odd. It all looked quite steady and under control, didn't it? But the back end was sliding a bit at the top of the hill already, and as he turned the wheel, just didn't stick.
It looked a bit as though he was offline pretty much all the way through it. That's an 80-mile-an-hour accident you just saw in slow motion. There's a groove through Casino Square. Talking to Fernando Alonso on Thursday after practice, this is his favourite part of the racetrack, up the hill, through the blind sweeps that lead into Casino Square. And then this right-hander here, he says there's a groove you have to get yourself into. And, well, obviously Massa didn't get himself into the groove. We now have a red flag situation. No news yet from race control as to when the session will restart. But Ted Kravitz is down at the Ferrari garage with some news for us.
Yeah, and I put the muckers on them, didn't I, when I said it might work out well for them, only for Felipe Massa to go off and boff it in the barrier. But an explanation, James, is that Ferrari have been forced to take the harder Bridgestone tyre. They tried the soft one this morning. A lot of people in the pit lanes swear that they saw those tyres blister, but Ferrari say, no, they weren't blistering, but we have taken the harder tyre because we feel that's better option for the race. But as you say, Martin, maybe that's just a characteristic of that. It just takes more than maybe half a lap to get some temperature into it.
Yes, it's not often you see the latest Formula 1 cars with that little apparent grip onto it. It just let go, didn't it, as soon as he turned the wheel. So the people on the bubble then, Webber and Rosberg in the Williams, well, they were really deep into the top 10 this morning with a very fast car. So they've got to get out. They've got 8 minutes and 28 seconds to get out there and do it. So there is plenty of time. Sato, and then who else have we got? Montagny, Massa and Michael Schumacher all on the bubble then. Massa will start this Grand Prix last.
Certainly will. Michael Schumacher can go out and have another run, and as Ted Kravitz was saying, they've chosen the harder Bridgestone tyre here. Bridgestone struggling a little bit in the first practice sessions on Thursday as the track got more rubber in it.
Okay, Arno, you're in the P1 now. If you think that you need a second run, I'll send you out if it makes you better. But if you're happy with this, then we'll wait.
We can wait because one big car which can overtake us is off. So we may have a lot of chances to stay in.
Okay, balance please.
Not too bad. I still struggle a little bit. Raskas, the last part with command steering.
Okay, so the Toyotas 1 and 3 at the moment. They've gone out and given it plenty, that's for sure. And we're going to see pole position, or certainly this session should be late 13s, early 1 minute 14. So as it's the 16 of them that go through, then I think that's a McLaren stalling there of Raikkonen. As it's 16 of them go through, there is an element of a comfort zone, providing you've done a solid time as such.
So the pit lane is now open again. The cars can go back out of the track. They've cleared up after the accident of Felipe Massa. That was Jarno Trulli we were hearing from before. Currently fastest on a 1:14.8. And as always, Trulli, when the pressure is on in qualifying, he finds the lap time. It's one of his great skills. Before that came along, I was just talking about the track ramping up. Ferrari and Ross Brawn were saying that they hoped that the more the rubber went down over the course of today's running, the more the track would come towards the Ferrari Bridgestone package. And certainly this morning, towards the end of the free practice, Michael Schumacher was setting some very, very quick lap times. He did a 1:14.0, only beaten by Fernando Alonso, who was a couple of tenths faster than him. So for sure Ferrari are in the battle. They have had to go with the harder Bridgestone tyre, which indicates they're planning on carrying quite a lot of fuel, I would have thought, into the qualifying session and the start of tomorrow's race. So it'll probably be a one-stop strategy for Ferrari and Michael Schumacher, and we'll see what the others decide to do. But you can certainly still get pole even though you've got a heavy car. Last year, Kimi Raikkonen on pole with 42 laps of fuel for the 70 lap race here. So that was quite an effort by Raikkonen. It shows it can be done. So here's Fisichella. He's definitely a threat for pole position today. He's got a slow-moving Williams in front of him. Hopefully that'll get out of the way.
Fisichella, fastest man in the first sector. The Williams pulling to the right-hand side in the tunnel. He's on an out lap. And, well, we've got Alonso in the other Renault hoping to get his hat-trick of poles, his third consecutive pole today, and his best ever qualifying here, Fernando Alonso, is P4. He's not starting qualifying. Fisichella, though, knows this place extremely well, and he's about to put a time in that'll give him a very comfortable position in this first knockout phase. Alonso, who's P10 at the moment, is a bit behind him, and Toro Rosso gently in the way there, but I don't think it'll hurt Fisichella too much, as he currently 5th. Does he find an improved time? He goes fast as a 14.6, and plenty more to come too.
But the fastest man out there at the moment is Alonso, currently 11th on a 1:16.3 with 5 minutes of this session left. Alonso's the fastest man in Sector 1 and 2. Here he is. He goes across the line. What's this going to turn into? A 14.232. 0.4 of a second slower than his fastest time this morning. That's more than good enough to get him safely through into the next knockout session. Here's Rosberg. He is not through yet. He's, as you can see, in the drop zone with Heidfeld, Webber, Sato, Montagny, and of course Felipe Massa, who will not take any further part in this qualifying session, having crashed out. So with the 2 Super Aguris there, you'd think that 3 of the places in the drop zone were pretty much bought and paid for. So there's still 3 other names to drop into that zone. Who will they be?
Michael Schumacher's got himself comfortably in his P8 at the moment. Raikkonen's done a 1:13.8 to go fastest. That's as good as we've seen. Rosberg, look at this. Rosberg is a second up, it's saying there on the fastest lap. So Rosberg on a hot one. He certainly was flying this morning. I don't think that's right. I don't think he's a second up on fastest lap. Klean's got himself P5 for Red Bull. Times are tumbling all over the place. Rosberg goes 8. They're showing him 1.1 seconds faster. That's not right, but it gets him in at the moment. 4 minutes and 22 seconds remaining. They can all have another go if they want to, if they need to.
16 cars out on the racetrack at the moment. This is Jacques Villeneuve. He is out on track. Button is in the drop zone at the moment. Michael Schumacher is pressing on. He is currently 10th fastest on a 1:15.1. Button, speed, Liuzzi now. The 2 Toro Rossos falling into the drop zone along with the Super Aguris and Felipe Massa. Can they get themselves out of there? Montero drops in as well, as Liuzzi lifts himself out with 3 minutes and 40 seconds of the session still to go.
Right, we're just keeping an eye on Button. He's on a solid lap. It might creep him into the top 16, but it's certainly not going to threaten the front runners. So Button on his back foot at the moment, no doubt about it. Raikkonen faster from Alonso. Webber, P3 for Williams. Montoya, Klean, Fisichella. Truly's dropped back to 7th. He didn't go out, remember? We heard him on the radio. Rosberg's in. Button is in P9. Coulthard down to 10. Michael Schumacher, who's just pitting now, is back down to 11. 3 minutes and 7 seconds to go.
And how comfortable is he feeling with that 1:15.1? Is it going to be enough to get him safely through? Remember, only the fastest 16 from this session will go through. And you can see the unlucky ones at the moment, the 2 Midlands, the 2 Toro Rossos and Scott Speed, sorry, the 2 Super Aguris and Scott Speed in the Toro Rosso. Can Speed get himself out of trouble? Here he is on track. He is currently not faster than he has been so far in his first sector, so this isn't his quickest by any means, and he appears to have some traffic in front of him in the form of Frank Montagny.
He's gone wide.
He's messed up the chicane.
Yeah, gone horribly wide at the chicane, just put himself totally out of sync.
You need to push, EB3.
That's what you need to hear in the middle of Tobac, but he'd already blown this lap. He can do another one though. but speed then down to 19th at the moment. He was the guy so pumped up, showing us how they created his motorhome for the weekend, but now he's got is that him pitting? That's no good. You can't pit, you've got to keep going. I wonder if he's misunderstood that radio call. He's just got to keep going. There's a minute 57. He could have got another hot lap in.
Ted Kravitz, what can you tell us?
Yeah, I think he has misunderstood it because the pit crew weren't ready for him. He could have gone straight through the pit lane, Martin, which would have been the right thing to do. But now they've come out, they've told him, no, that's it. Sorry, Scott, mate, you're not in, and he's going to park it.
Yeah, if he'd have carried on, he'd have had another flying lap available to him. I wonder if he misunderstood that message. But Ralf Schumacher's got himself up into P4 at the moment. They've certainly, whatever they've changed on that Toyota since this morning, it's given them a lot more pace because they were absolutely nowhere this morning. Raikkonen, Alonso, Webber, Ralf Schumacher, Montoya 5th, Klein, Fisichella, Trulli, Rosberg, Button 10, Coulthard 11 at the moment. Coulthard trying to find himself a clear lap, and it's not going to work for him. He doesn't really need it though. Schumacher down to 12th, Liuzzi 13th, Villeneuve 14th, Heidfeld 15th, Barrichello absolutely on the bubble for Honda.
But he's out there on a lap. He doesn't feel secure or comfortable. And Rubens Barrichello gets himself away from trouble. He leaps up into 8th place. That brings Heidfeld down right on the cusp of the drop zone on a 15.3. Scott Speed's time was a 16.2, so he was going to need to find 9/10 of a second if he was going to get himself out of trouble. And clearly they didn't feel that was in the car. At the moment, Liuzzi, though, is out of trouble in the sister Toro Rosso in 14th place. With less than half of a minute left in the session, there's nobody out there doing any meaningful laps. So a slightly anticlimactic conclusion to the first knockout with Albers, Montero, Speed, Sato, Montagny. So 4 of those certainly predictable. One of the Toro Rossos falling in as well. And Felipe Massa, I suppose, the big scalp, he made a mistake at the Casino Square, bashed the car into the barriers, and that is why he will start tomorrow's Grand Prix from the back as the clock times out at the end of the first knockout session. So Raikkonen fastest from Alonso, 0.4 of a second the gap at the front. An awful lot more excitement to come though from Monte Carlo.
Позиции на 9-м ряду стартового поля. При этом Альберс опережает Монтейро уже в 5-й раз в этом сезоне. Так что 5-2 теперь становится квалификационный счет у этих двух пилотов. Что касается 10-го ряда стартового поля, то здесь Торо Россо Скотта Спида. Вновь он не во втором сегменте, в отличие вновь от Витантонио Льюци. Так что здесь 6-1 теперь уже счет в пользу итальянца квалификационный. Ну и, наконец, последний ряд делит вторая суперагури Франко Монтани и Филиппе Масса. Масса, разбивший, единственный из всех пилотов, разбивший свой болид по ходу этой первой серии. Так что там квалификационный счет так же, как и у Сато со своими партнерами, у Михаэля Шумахера 7-0 с Филиппе Массой. Так что Михаэль пока еще вполне, скажем так, заслуживает свое место в Формуле-1. Что касается первых 16, они попадают в следующий сегмент. Это Райконен и Алонсо, Вебер и Ральф Шумахер, Монтоя и Клин, Физикелла и Баррикелло, Трулли и Росберг, Баттон и Култхарт, Шумахер, Михаэль и Витантонио Льюци. И, наконец, буквально на грани, но, тем не менее, во втором сегменте 2 БМВ Жака Вильнёва и Ника Хайтфельда. 1:13.887 секунды. Именно таков результат Кими Райконена, который, естественно, пилоты попробуют превзойти во втором сегменте буквально через пару минут.
Welcome back to Monte Carlo. This is what happened to Felipe Massa, Martin.
Yeah, he's gone into Massa now, and the car looks like it's got no grip already. He's fighting it. And curiously then, as he turns right for the second part of Casino Square, back steps out. Traction control will never pick that up. That's just a raw, basic oversteer where the rear wheels can't follow the front. They just haven't got enough grip. Traction control is only when you're on the throttle does that scoop you up and save you. And just a graphic demonstration of how little space there is around here to scoop up anything that's going wrong, and almost a sort of a silly accident really for Massa, as if one of the tyres wasn't heated up properly, or sometimes, you know, the blankets fail, or you know, you haven't got exactly what you thought you'd got when you went out there. But I'm surprised in a way, because it looked like the car wasn't sticking even on the way into Casino, and it's almost like he didn't believe it.
Taking a look at the McLaren, that's a new front wing for this weekend and new front suspension as well for both drivers. Raikkonen and Montoya have different front suspension requirements, and they've been catered for. This is the beautiful Renault, which seems to work extremely well. Looks like fuel flap has popped out slightly on Alonso's car there. Taking a look at the Williams, which have been quite quiet throughout free practice, but both Webber, who got himself up into 3rd place in that session, and Rosberg, who was 10th, looking very racy in qualifying here. And Williams a bit of a dark horse, I think, for this afternoon's qualifying session. So Alonso, as I said, was Raikkonen was fastest, Alonso 2nd, Webber 3rd, Ralf Schumacher 4th for Toyota, Montoya 5th, and there is the world champion just contemplating the next stage of this. Ted Kravitz has some news for us.
Yeah, James, you were talking about how the McLaren drivers now have their own individual front suspension setups. You're absolutely right, but Juan Pablo Montoya also has a different front wing to Kimi Raikkonen here this weekend. His is the new one, Montoya's is the new one. It gives more downforce, but it's also much more pitch sensitive. Now that bothers Raikkonen, he doesn't like that, so he stayed with the old wing, but Montoya doesn't seem to mind that. He just wants less understeer, sort of more bite at the front. So more unpredictable for Montoya, but that's what he wants.
Yeah, I think McLaren have a difficult situation there, which often happens, but I think it's quite significant there that Montoya and Raikkonen like their cars set up quite differently. They have different preferences, different style altogether, which does compromise you when you're going testing. You have to, you have to take a number of parts and a number of different strategies if your drivers have an altogether different style and demand from the car. Now we're going to see some scalps go, I think. In the end, other than Massa's shunt, there were not too many surprises as to who got knocked out in the first round, but this is going to be the big one.
Just to remind you of the format, 2 15-minute knockout sessions then. We've already had one of them. We're now starting the second one. At the end of this session, we will lose again the 6 slowest cars. And as Martin was saying first time round, when the clock stops and the flag drops, that's the end of it. You can no longer complete a lap. Then after that, the fastest 10 will go through to the pole position shootout, where traffic, it has to be said, will be less of a factor because there'll only be 10 cars on track at the time. We've still got 16 on track, though, for this session, and traffic can still be a factor, as we saw, as Fisichella found out to his cost, if you remember, a few weeks ago at the Nürburgring when he came up behind Jacques Villeneuve. It's quite easy to find traffic on even the widest racetracks. When you're on the streets of Monte Carlo, a very, very easy matter indeed.
Everybody out there so far apparently has gone out on fresh tyres. They're going to try and find some early space for themselves. I think another important thing to remind you is the times that are all cancelled now. For those that have got through, the 16 that are through to the second round, all times are cancelled from the first qualifying session, first knockout, and you start all over again. So you can't claim a great lap you did earlier on. You've got to go and put another one in.
Well, first time round, Ferrari and Michael Schumacher waited a while, let everybody get their first laps in before they went out. The track is improving all the time, remember, as more and more rubber goes down. We're riding on board with Heidfeld then, into Casino Square. Watch out for the bump on the left-hand side, coming down towards Mirabeau, the 50 miles an hour right-hander, and then into the Lowe's hairpin. The only place on the racetrack where the cars observe the national speed limits here in Monaco. 30 miles an hour through the hairpin. Then down through Portier Corner, where Senna crashed a few years ago, memorably, and into the tunnel. A bit more brightly lit than in the past, just making it that little bit easier for the drivers to make the adjustment back to the brilliant sunshine again. Into the chicane, where they bounce up over the curves, picking up the speed to Tabac Corner. 100 miles an hour. There you go, just a cigarette paper away from the barriers on the left-hand side. The swimming pool complex. And round right underneath us, our commentary position up on the left-hand side now, into the Rascasse corner. Some well-heeled punters are paying about £200 a head to have a glass of white wine and a prawn sandwich and watch the racing from there. And now across the line goes Heidfeld. One of the drivers on the bubble in this session, undoubtedly. Does a 1:15.1, and certainly judging from the first qualifying session, I think both of the BMW drivers will do well to get out of this one.
Yeah, Alonso's on a hot lap, so is Fisichella. This is Fisichella then coming through. Liuzzi's got himself up there too, but that's only because he's the third man to complete a flying lap. Does Fisichella get into the 13s? He does indeed, a 13.6. What about that? That's as quick as last year's pole, with 200 horsepower less fuel as well, because they had to start with race fuel. 13.5 for Raikkonen, 1:13.5. Alonso goes in between him and Fisichella with a 1:13.6. They're laying him down early this time.
They really, really are. Don't forget the track will get quicker though, so we'll see what Michael Schumacher can do a bit later on. He's watching all of this in the pit garage on the telly. Ferrari's strategy is let the others go out first, and I'll go out when the track's best. There is a little bit of a risk involved in that, of course, from a traffic point of view. These are all banker laps effectively, but it'll get all the big names through. But how close are they? 1:13.5 Raikkonen, 1:13.62 Alonso, 1:13.64 Fisichella. David Coulthard is up there as well in 4th place. The Red Bull is going well, a 1:14 flat for him as we ride on board with Fisichella in the swimming pool.
Yeah, Coulthard, 2 times winner here, knows his way around, lives there too, but he certainly knows how to drive this racetrack. But so you've got to be in the 14s then if you want to be anywhere near the top 10, as far as I can see. That in-lap of Fisichella's there was the fastest man through one of the sectors and just about equal fastest through the middle. That's an in-lap. So he certainly, as we saw in the first round, he got held up by traffic. There's more to come from Giancarlo Fisichella. Raikkonen, Alonso, Fisichella 3rd, Coulthard 4th, Montoya 5th, truly sick. Toyota then definitely have improved since this morning. Heidfeld, Button up there in 8th. Button struggling, you know. Jensen doesn't appear at the moment. So he's going to have to dig deeper and find something.
Well, he's 10th now. Rosberg is right behind him, currently outside the top 10 in 15th place. And this is Nico Rosberg coming through to complete his lap. He goes to 5th fastest, a 1:14.1, just a fraction slower than David Coulthard. There's Patrick Head, formerly technical director, who turns 60 next week. Doesn't look a day over 55, does he? One of the great geniuses of Formula One racing over the years. Still a very steady hand on the tiller at Williams. Here's Ralf Schumacher, teammate to Jarno Trulli. Currently 14th, Ralf Schumacher. Very keen to get himself into the top 10 shootout here. And if Toyota get one or both of their cars through, that'll be an amazing achievement because they looked terrible this morning in free practice.
So neither the Schumacher brothers in the race or into the final round of qualifying yet. What has that done for Ralf? He is now 10th, just 10th. Michael Schumacher yet to set a time is 16th out of 16. People in the drop zone then, Klein, Heidfeld, Button, Villeneuve, Liuzzi, Michael Schumacher.
Well, so far, the much talked about traffic issue doesn't seem to have raised its head. I haven't seen too many drivers compromised in the first knockout session, and they seem to be finding enough space for themselves, or they're just pacing themselves. 10 cars on track at the moment only, 12 sitting in the pits, having a think about whether to go out again. Raikkonen fastest, and you can see the drivers in the drop zone currently. Michael Schumacher, who is on a fast lap at the moment. I'm sure he'll get himself out of there. Liuzzi, Villeneuve, Heidfeld, the 2 BMW Saubers are both there. So is Jensen Button in 12th place, and Christian Klein in the Red Bull.
Yeah, Button's just gone a fraction faster, but it is only a fraction. He remains 12th on a 14.9. You need to be a low 1:14 to be anything like confident. As you said, James, the big decision now is, do you blow another set of new tyres that would be so handy for tomorrow's race? They start the weekend with 7 sets available to them, 28 tyres. They must be 14 fronts and 14 rears. You can't start getting clever with extra rear tyres or something. And Michael Schumacher's on a very fast first sector and about, hopefully, to pull himself out of 16th place. Down at Portier then, the tunnel ahead. So is another car. That is going to be tricky on the exit of the tunnel. Down into the chicane, I hope the BMW is looking in its mirrors, and it looks like Michael might just clear the BMW, bounces the back end around nicely on the curbs at the chicane and steams at 90 miles an hour, the slowest point of Tabak down to the final part of the sprint pool. He's a quarter of a second down, so it's sort of a late 1:13 at the moment, but that'll be enough to get him into the final top 10 shootout.
He's timed it absolutely perfectly. Just that BMW to get round, but he was very obliging. So no problems for the 7 times world champion, Michael Schumacher. He's comfortably through in 4th place at the moment. There's his manager, Willy Weber, on the left with the white shirt on. He, along with Schumacher, deciding what to do for the future. Still no decision on that. We're told that we'll find out Ferrari's drivers for next year at the Italian Grand Prix in Monza, but I wonder if Ferrari really can keep a lid on their plans for that long and keep it secret. Time will tell. I'm sure a few investigative journalists will dig it out, though, before then. And Ted Kravitz has some more news for us.
Yeah, down at Honda, and we didn't see it, but Jenson Button was held up on his first flying lap. He tried to do another one on the same set of tyres, on an old set of tyres. They're already past their best now. So he's just come in, put a new set of tyres on, Martin, and gone out for another go.
And does he need it? P13 at the moment, 6 minutes and 10 seconds remaining. He's trying to mentally, if he has a problem on that lap, he needs to pit immediately and throw another set on. But not a lucky man here, Button. Big shunt, of course. Raced, drove well for second place, ended up then commentating with us last year. And this place has not been kind to him. Now he needs a little bit of payback.
He needs 7/10 of a second to get himself into the top 10. At the moment, he is currently on a 14.99. And you can see there, Jarno Trulli on a 14.36. So if he wants to knock Trulli into the danger zone, that's the sort of speed he's going to have to find. But everybody else is going to be trying to improve as well. So the target is likely to move further away from him.
Look at that. Michael Schumacher gets the random call into the weighbridge, and that is bad news. You don't need that. He's got a fast enough time that it's not going to hurt him too much. But if you're unlucky with that, you're losing critical running time on the track. And also other data that the team are not able to get from your car while you're in the weighbridge area.
So we're riding on board. Very interesting shot. Hope we get a bit more of that during the race tomorrow. Jenson Button, you see the suspension travel on that Honda. He's got a clear track in front of him. The next car is 6.8 seconds up the road, and it's Nico Rosberg. So hopefully, Rosberg, what sort of pace is he travelling at the moment? He's doing his fastest lap so far. So Rosberg's, he's not going to catch him, and it's a clear track for Jenson Button.
Rosberg's 3/10 faster than Jenson in the first sector. Jenson's a 4/10 of the quickest man. So the split times they're showing us to get him inside the top 10, that's where they're giving the green and yellows today. Slightly different to normal, but his second sector time coming up very shortly, 37 flat. That's a full 8/10 slower than the fastest too. So Button then, a quarter of a second off of the top 10. I've got a feeling, and he's gone in, and that's exactly what we were talking about. They knew he wasn't going to do it, so they'll have to give him another set of tyres and go.
But where is the speed going to come from for Jenson Button? And what's his teammate doing? Well, Rubens Barrichello is 9th fastest at the moment on a 14.3. He's not particularly safe either. Ted?
Yeah, and it's understeer that's the problem. They've done 3 turns of front wing, but just on the right-hand side of the front wing, Martin. So understeer the problem. Jenson out on a new set of tyres.
Okay, so they had to recognise early he wasn't going to make it, even with a banzai through the last few corners. And they've got just 15 minutes total, of course. 3 minutes 30 to go. He joins the track at the back of the pack there. 3 minutes 30. Plenty of time for an outlap and a flyer.
But the problem is Barrichello and Montoya are in front of him on the track on laps at the moment. They will be on in laps when Jenson picks the pace up. So he's got to find some space for himself. He's got to mentally figure that one out as well as try and find the speed from himself and from the car. A tall order for Jenson Button here then, with 3 minutes left in the qualifying session. Ralf Schumacher, Klien, Liuzzi, Button, Heidfeld and Villeneuve, the drivers currently in the drop zone.
But it's not only that, we're all thinking about the qualifying session. If he starts 14th tomorrow, he's in the crash zone, let alone the podium zone. It's so difficult back there. It'll just annihilate his race chances. So Button then absolutely on his back foot, and he doesn't appear to have, if that's a 3 turns of front wing or something, that is desperate Dan time in terms of just give me some front grip and I'll go and throw it around and see what happens.
Fantastic scrap going on between the 2 Toyota drivers for the final place in the top 10. Jarno Trulli is currently 10th, 1:14.361, and Ralf Schumacher 1:14.392. They are battling each other for who goes down and who stays up.
Yeah, and Ralf Schumacher will be bitching about Jenson because Jenson held him up in the last corner and Ralf missed it by 100th of a second to get in and beat his teammate. So Ralf will be an unhappy man there. Raikkonen 13.5, Alonso 13.6, Fisichella 13.6, Schumacher 13.7, Webber 13.7. It's so close at the front. What is Button doing? He's still 3/10 adrift in the first sector, but it's still his best one so far.
But he's got Juan Montoya just a second up the road from him. He needs Montoya to either get out of his way or keep the pace up. Montoya is keeping the pace up. That's good news for Jenson Button, who with a minute and a half left in the session finds himself in a dogged relegation battle. The man hoping to contest this year's World Championship and win Grand Prix, but here in Monte Carlo, he is really struggling. Coulthard pops in with the 4th fastest time. What might he achieve in the pole position battle? Button is past Montoya on the racetrack. Beg your pardon.
It's Barrichello. Button just behind still. But Montoya, he's P9 at the moment. He's going to go over the line soon, but doesn't improve. What does Button do? A 14.9 again. He's out. Button is out of the top 10. Will start the race no higher than P14.
He may as well come and commentate with us tomorrow. I think he'd have more fun.
Well, that's a disaster then. So Barrichello just made it in the other Hondas. Heidfeld was pulling out off Portier with the BMW. And the top 10 then are Raikkonen and Alonso, Fisichella, Coulthard, Michael Schumacher, Mark Webber, Nico Rosberg, Montoya 9th, Barrichello 10. Is there anybody out there that can upset that? No, it's over. This session is over. That's the top 10. Out go Ralf Schumacher for Toyota, Christian Klien, Red Bull, Liuzzi, Toro Rosso, Button for Honda. He will be gutted. Villeneuve and Heidfeld, the 2 BMWs. Doesn't surprise us, that one, does it? They didn't have particularly good pace. They're 15 and 16.
Nice onboard shot through the tunnel there. So for the 3rd race in a row, Martin, Rubens Barrichello has found more qualifying speed than Jenson Button. And if you think about the start to the season that Barrichello had, that's quite telling reversal. Jenson's not happy with this car as a qualifier, and well, hopefully we'll find out why soon. That's your top 8, and the pole position shootout is coming right up.
Блестяще. Итак, завтра на 8-м ряду стартового поля окажутся 2 BMW, Жак Вильнёв и Ник Хайтфельд, причем Вильнёв впереди Хайтфельда. И, как ни странно, ну, наверное, там будет сейчас не до праздника в команде, учитывая, что у них 8-й ряд стартового поля, но Вильнёв опережает Хайтфельда в квалификационной борьбе. Теперь 4-3 в пользу канадца. Дальше на 7-м ряду стартового поля Витантонио Льюци на 13-м месте. Блестящий просто результат для итальянца из Торо Россо. И он опережает Хонду Дженсона Баттона, ни много ни мало. Так что как бы теперь не выступил Баррикелло в 3-м сегменте, он уже выиграл эту квалификацию у Баттона и чуть-чуть подтягивается. Теперь Баттон по-прежнему лидирует в квалификационном счете, но лишь 4-3. Что касается, наконец, 6-го ряда стартового поля, то есть ближайших, скажем так, из неудачников, кому не удалось попасть в последний сегмент, это Toyota Ральфа Шумахера и Red Bull Кристиана Клина. А это значит, что их собственные партнеры по команде, соответственно, Дэвид Кулхард и Ярно Трулли, уже квалификационное сражение у них выиграли. Трулли также подтягивается к Ральфу. Там 4-3 по-прежнему в пользу немца, правда. Что же касается Red Bull, то здесь выходит вперед Дэвид Кулхард, и 4-3 уже становится в его пользу относительно Кристиана Клина. Итак, вот Ральф Шумахер, первый из проигравших. Ральф Шумахер, который в свое время здесь стартовал с пола, который финишировал на подиуме. На этот раз с первых 5 рядов стартового поля в бой уйти ему не удастся. Что же касается первой десятки, то они продолжат борьбу за пол-позишн уже на этот раз и буквально через пару минут.
Against many predictions, the first 2 knockout qualifying sessions of this Monaco Grand Prix have been completed without any serious traffic problems, but there have been problems no end for Jenson Button, who misses out on the pole position shootout. Exactly what's gone wrong?
It's difficult to understand, really, Steve, because also Rubens Barrichello is now progressing and making some headway, and Jenson seems to be going backwards. I just don't feel that Jenson's quite at one with his car. He's not really got that confidence level to put the lap together, and it's getting a bit frustrating for him. You can see that in his whole nature, how he's out the car and in it.
Yes, and we heard from him in our race build-up. He gave that impression, didn't he, that he came here full of optimism, and that rather disappeared during the practice sessions.
I think it disappeared as soon as he went out the first lap. He just knew that the car wasn't underneath him, and he just can't seem to build on that and get any more confidence built up with what he's got there. And until he does that again, we're not going to see him on great form.
Back in 14th position, it wrecks his prospects for tomorrow, doesn't it?
Oh, he's got no possibility to make any headway whatsoever there. Around this circuit in particular, you've got to be qualified in that first couple of rows to have half a chance of sitting on the podium.
Other impressions? McLaren, Ferrari, Renault, all strong.
McLaren have come out and they are super aggressive. Let's wait and see whether it stays there, and let's see what they do for the Sunday afternoon.
OK, this is a knockout session for pole position then, and we'll rejoin our live coverage with Martin and James.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, Kimi Raikkonen fastest man in both of the 2 knockout sessions, the low fuel knockout sessions, which is all about outright lap speed, as fast as you can possibly go. In the first one he did a 1:13.8, in the second he did a 1:13.5. In both cases he was followed by Fernando Alonso, and Michael Schumacher not really making an impression on those two at the moment. He was 5th fastest in the first session, safely through in the second one, but well, Button is not here in the pole position shootout for the first time this season, Martin, but for making it in there for his first time is David Coulthard, who looks really on it this weekend.
He was only 10th off quickest, but let's see. The problem is now, fastest race strategy around here is a 2-stopper. And they've now committed to their race fuel as they leave the pit lane. I'm amazed how early they all went down, because they sat there for a full 3/4 of a minute ticking over, and these things just boil up incredibly fast. And but if you go with the a 1-stop fuel, you're going to be better in traffic, give yourself track position, but it's going to heavily compromise your qualifying run later on this afternoon. So they put their race fuel in. Now they're going to go out and burn it off as fast as they can, as much as they can. You only use 1.8 kilograms of fuel around here. Compare that to earlier Grand Prix where they're using nearly twice as much fuel per lap. That's because the average speed's so slow. You're so long off the throttle pedal in these slow corners and the hairpins, of course. So now they really, I suspect they can only if they're really serious about the first 2 or 3 rows of the grid, they've had to commit to a 2-stop strategy and hope they get away at the front of the pack and gives themselves a better chance for qualifying later on in this 20-minute session.
Well, against that though, last year, as I mentioned earlier, Kimi Raikkonen got pole position last year with 42 laps worth of fuel. He went well beyond half distance in the Grand Prix. Alongside him on the front row, but beaten by him, was Fernando Alonso, who had only 25 laps of fuel in the car. So you have to be brave to try it, and Raikkonen was certainly feeling brave. He had a car advantage here last year that he simply doesn't have this year. He would appear to have a slight edge at the moment in outright speed on the Renault and the Ferrari, although have we really seen what this Ferrari of Michael Schumacher can do in terms of outright speed? I don't know. But certainly the tactics are going to play a huge part in the outcome of the pole position shootout. How far into tomorrow's Grand Prix do they feel they want to go to be tactically on the ball? Certainly the idea of carrying a little bit less fuel in the early part of the Grand Prix is not a brilliant idea, because if you have any kind of safety car in the early stages, which is certainly possible here in Monte Carlo, that strategy is wrecked because you're simply not able to scamper away into the distance. So you do need a fair bit of fuel in the car to be sure that you're going to have a fair chance in the race tomorrow. But Martin, everyone talks about this being a great driver's circuit, but Michael Schumacher hasn't won here for 4 years, and that's not because he's lost it. You also need a good car around here, don't you?
You do. You can pick the car up and carry it around. If you remember me saying back in Barcelona, you can only drive what they give you in Barcelona because of the high-speed corners. You can hustle a car around here. There's no doubt about it. But there are so many other factors. Reliability is a big issue because of the curbs and the bumps and the drain covers. Obviously, incidents, tripping over back markers, getting slightly offline, and the marbles will soon throw you in the wall too. Louise has found Jacques Villeneuve.
Jacques, prior to this event, people were predicting big problems with traffic in qualifying. Is that what you found?
It wasn't too bad. I think everybody was running. The only person that had a little bit of problem with traffic was my teammate. So, but no big deal today, surprisingly.
The result about what you expected here?
No, very disappointing. We're expecting to be a lot quicker.
Thanks, Jacques.
Jacques Villeneuve there, who apparently towards the end of last season, when he wasn't sure whether he was going to be retained by BMW and Sauber, decided to put together his own album of music, songs he's written himself, recorded with friends. His sister is a pianist, and he went into a recording studio in Paris and put down an album which is floating around in the paddock. I'm hoping to have a listen to it later on this afternoon. He's very proud of it. Apparently one of the songs is about his father, Gilles. I'd certainly like to hear that because Gilles was certainly my big hero.
I don't think I've seen Jacques drive much better than he is at the moment. Certainly when he came in and he had a very fast car underneath him at Williams, then he took a championship. He certainly had some lean years in between time, but he is driving as nicely, I think, as I've ever seen since I started commentating anyway. But not today, though, for Villeneuve or Heidfeld. They just didn't have the speed available to them. So now they're going around there, they've got to stay within 10% of their fastest lap to get their fuel credit back of 1.8 kilograms of fuel for each and every lap they complete. On an in and an out lap, they've got to stay within 20% of their fastest lap to make sure that they're credited. Obviously, as you build up to speed or you come in the pit lane, you're going to lose a few more seconds, and that's the phase that's going on at the moment. And to remind you, in this session, you can complete your lap after the checker has dropped, as long as you're on that lap before the checker flag absolutely falls down. As long as you just started it, you can finish it. Different to the first two sessions, and gives you, it's quite a significant difference actually, isn't it? Gives you another couple of minutes effectively.
There's Nico Rosberg using a used, very used set of tyres. Look at that right front, look how little grey grip there is left on that one. Lots of gnarling on the tyre. Rosberg, who has exploded into Formula 1 this year, last year's winner of the GP2 series, of course, and later this afternoon, Lewis Hamilton, Britain's Lewis Hamilton, will go for victory here in the GP2 race. He's starting from pole position, managed to get that yesterday morning, comfortably in pole. On pole he is, so you can watch that race here on ITV1 next weekend, next Saturday afternoon, and see how Lewis Hamilton gets on in the GP2 race in Monte Carlo. Nico Rosberg, though, Martin, the first time since Malaysia we've had both the Williams cars in the top 10 shootout, so they're looking really good here.
Nico coasting down the pit straight. You put any old set of tyres on for this phase just to keep the rims off the ground, basically, and as long as it's got a bit of grip, cruise around, burn up your fuel, try and burn up less than they're going to give you back, give yourself an advantage in the race. But as I said earlier this year, the problem is they're all doing exactly the same thing, so it's kind of what's the point? At the end of the day, they might as well just agree on something and go from there. But anyway, that's what we've got at the moment, and that's, they've got to work to the regulations, they've got to maximise them. You always read the regulations twice, once to see what they say, and again to see how you can bend them to stretching point. And the teams will soon come up with something.
We need to be a little bit quicker, mate, a little bit quicker. We have a target of about a 19.5, please.
Okay, so that's Coulthard being told, you ain't going to get your fuel credit, chap, if you don't go a little bit quicker. A bit surprised, if he does a 14 in qualifying, that's 10% of that is only 6.5 seconds. He's absolutely right. He might not get a fuel credit for that. You've got to be sub 1 minute 20. Now I know why they're giving him the hurry up. And the response is an 18.2.
Yeah, I'm not 100% comfortable with the idea of fuel credits in qualifying. Qualifying's about going fast. It's about sticking the car on the grid. And anyway, as you say, this is the part of the session that we're stuck with. What will happen here then is at some point, one of the guys will go into the pits, put on a new set of tyres, and will go for a lap. But at the moment, they're trying to get the fuel load down as much as possible to make the car as light as possible. But as you say, burning out only 1.8 kilos of fuel per lap, it's all pretty relative to each other. So soon, I think someone will, perhaps with about 7 or 8 minutes to go, someone will go out and stick a lap in. And of course, on that, you have to make sure they don't encounter any traffic.
Yeah. So I can tell you, the easiest time of the weekend to hit the barrier, I reckon, would be now. When you're trying to go about within 10% of the pace, you're not 100% it's easy to be not 100% concentrated. You turn in a little bit lazily, catch a slipping part of the track. You've got to be so focused out there, even at these speeds.
Well, the eagle-eyed among you will notice that is not Rubens Barrichello's normal race helmet. His foster brother, Tony Kanaan, is racing tomorrow in the Indy 500, and he and Rubens have swapped helmets for the weekend. So Rubens is driving in Tony Kanaan's helmet, and Kanaan is wearing Rubens's in tomorrow's Indy 500. It's a little Brazilian thing, and it's eye-catching. It's reminiscent of Emerson Fittipaldi's helmet, that. Hopefully it'll bring Rubens some luck. It's certainly got him into the top 10 so far at the expense of teammate Jenson Button. So let's see how much more joy it can bring him this weekend. 4 times a podium visitor here in Monte Carlo is Rubens Barrichello. Never a winner, but he has had a fair degree of success here, as has Giancarlo Fisichella, who's always very impressive around here and could do with another result just to remind everybody that he's there in that second Renault.
Just looking at the computer here, we're given the fastest sector times of all of the sessions and the fastest top speeds at those sector points. and they're shared by 6 points then, 6 pieces of information shared by 5 drivers today, and that shows you, I think, just how close it's going to be at the front of the grid. Raikkonen, Alonso, Michael Schumacher, Fisichella and Coulthard have all got a faster something or other in the earlier sessions, so quite clearly they're better in some parts of the track than others. Ted has further news.
Yeah, I'm down at Honda, and Rubens Barrichello's the first man to blink, Martin. The guys have just come out of the garage. They're getting out what must be the last set of new tyres, if not second last set for Rubens Barrichello. That's him in the background you can hear, but just on Jenson Button, absolutely furious. He stormed upstairs where all the pit wall, where all the engineers' rooms are, up here at Honda. Nick Fry, the boss, followed him up there, and they're having a big post-mortem up there about what went wrong. We'll grab one of them when they come out, finally.
Yeah, well, we don't know. We'll find out later on. Was it a handling problem? Traffic? Just couldn't get it hooked up? Whatever. The running they've done through the weekend didn't give them the car they needed to get into the top 10. Kimi Raikkonen then has finished with his fuel economy run. He is now ready for a new set of tyres, and well, let's say basically they're going to give you ultimate grip for 4 miles, these tyres that probably take about 8 man-hours each to make, and just that fresh rubber, slightly uncured. You're giving it the final curing process really as you run them around the track, putting that last heat cycle into them. That's why they give up a little bit more grip to you.
So in terms of the ultimate lap time, it really only comes when the tyres are new, but they're still giving good lap times after a long period. In the free practice session on Thursday, Juan Pablo Montoya did a 1:16.1, which is a very competitive race lap time, on the 23rd lap on a single set of Michelin. So the Michelin tyre looks enormously consistent and still very quick all the way through the run, which will definitely have a bearing on tomorrow's Grand Prix. The whole Michelin operation, though, operating under a bit of a cloud here this weekend, with the tragic news that yesterday the boss of Michelin, the whole company, Edouard Michelin, was killed in a bizarre fishing accident off the coast of Brittany. His small boat was shipwrecked along with a local fisherman, just the two of them on board, and Edouard Michelin unfortunately losing his life in that accident, and everybody here in Monte Carlo is absolutely devastated at the news. An enormously popular man and a very popular president of Michelin.
So this says to me, James, that they're planning a couple of assaults on a quick lap. Just under 8 minutes to go. Effectively, as long as you cross that line before the flag drops, you've got then, what is it, a lap, a minute and 60, 70, yeah, so you've got about 9.5 minutes left to deliver up a time, so that'll give you a couple of shots at it. And out on the track then, Montoya, Fisichella, Michael Schumacher, Alonso, all out on their new tyres, but carrying the remains of their race fuel that they haven't yet burned off.
Raikkonen has a more or less clear track in front of him. 6.5 seconds to David Coulthard. That should be more than enough for Raikkonen as he comes down towards the Mirabeau corner then. Into the Lowe's hairpin. They've been racing around here since 1929. You look through the archives, you see the greats like Nuvolari, Chiron, all racing here, Sterling Moss, Jim Clark, all going through that same hairpin, and it hasn't really changed very much at all since the very first race back in 1929. Other parts of the circuit have, like this chicane, used to be just a hole between two barriers. Now it's a bit more of a deliberate chicane. Now this is where Martin and I were standing, just on the left there, where those marshals are standing. The car's so close to the barriers, absolutely breathtaking, get almost blown over by the force of the wind being pushed off the cars. They're absolutely leaning on it here. The really quick guys wipe the maker's name off the sidewalls of the tyres as they go round. What's this lap time then for Kimi Raikkonen?
It's an early 14, I think, about to come up for Raikkonen, or can he pop it in? No, it's a very early 14. Remember, though, it's going to be slower than the earlier sessions because of the race fuel. Michael Schumacher, though, is about a tenth up on that in the first sector, and quicker than both Montoya and Fisichella. But there's just fractions between them as they climb up the hill to Casino Square. Now then, the middle part of the lap for Montoya. What can he do? Raikkonen at the moment on a 14.1. He's the only man to set a really meaningful time.
Well, Montoya was only a couple of hundredths slower than Michael Schumacher in Sector 1. His middle sector is not quite on a par with his teammates, so he's just over 0.3 of a second down on him. Montoya looked very promising in free practice on Thursday. I think he feels he could get a big result here. Previous winner of this Grand Prix, but that's not going to do it for him. At the moment, he's on a 14.6 with Alonso, Fisichella and Michael Schumacher all looking like they can go quicker than that here this afternoon. Here's Schumi. His time is a 1:13.898 to go fastest ahead of Raikkonen.
Quarter of a second ahead then. The pole in the 13s, that is amazing. It's so close to last year's pole with 25% less power. Absolutely extraordinary. Can Alonso respond? His middle sector is so-so. He's got to be pretty special through Rascasse. Anthony Nogues over the line. Is it enough? He goes second. It's not enough. 13.9. It's 100th of a second adrift. Alonso will have to have another go. Michael Schumacher then steals the early march.
Flavio Briatore there. He has one of the biggest boats in the harbour. And tonight, Bernie Ecclestone's wife, Slavica, will be celebrating her birthday on Flavio's boat. I think there's 50 invitees, the most exclusive invitation in Monte Carlo this weekend. So much for them to look forward to this evening, bobbing around in the harbour. Tremendous atmosphere, life, lots of A-list celebrities. Kevin Spacey is here from Hollywood to launch his new film, and many other footballers as well. But on the racetrack with 4 minutes to go, Webber goes third behind Michael Schumacher and Alonso. Raikkonen fourth, Fisichella fifth. Montoya's down to sixth now.
It looks like Trulli is not attempting to do a long run in the Toyota burn fuel or whatever. Coulthard is still in the fuel burning phase, so he's just going to have one last gasp effort, it seems. And now then, it's all about the first two rows of the grid. Michael Schumacher leads from Alonso, and Webbo. Raikkonen is fourth at the moment. Ted's down there.
Yeah, absolutely bizarre at Renault. Fisichella's just come in. They weren't ready for him. They didn't know what he was doing. They've sent him out again.
Well, his lap was spoiled, Ted, I think. Not sure who got in his way, but he got blocked, basically. And so he's come in to take on a new set of tyres and have another go with 3.5 minutes left in this 20-minute pole position shootout session. Teammate Alonso is out on track as well, going through his favourite part of the racetrack here. So currently Michael Schumacher looking to try and get another pole position to add to his list this year. Have tended to run a little bit less fuel Ferrari in qualifying, haven't they?
Certainly compromised Fisichella then. If he was expecting a new set of tyres to get out and didn't receive them when he went into the pits, that certainly compromised his afternoon. Schumacher is fastest then from Alonso. Alonso's now on an outlap for his final effort. There he is. He's behind his teammate at the moment. He's going to have to try and find some space. They'll be feverishly on the radio to alert Fisichella to the fact that Alonso is about to launch an attack on pole position. Second on the grid here last year. I think I may have said he's never qualified higher than fourth. He's never finished higher than fourth. But Alonso pits. He's not having another go. What's this all about? Seems to be total... there should be enough space for him just to queue up and get a set of tyres. 2 minutes 18, still plenty of time to get that outlap. The outlap's going to be about 1 minute 30. So, Ted, what's going on down there, Ted?
Absolutely bizarre. Now Fisichella's in as well. They're giving Fisichella the new tyres he never had, but it must be traffic because they've burned off enough fuel by now. Alonso must have gone out, realised that something wasn't right. He complained of understeer earlier in the session, so maybe they were just putting a bit of front wing on. For him and Fisichella now out on track, but it was in that order. It was Fisichella first, Alonso second.
Okay, 1:49 to go, and now I think they're going to all be out on the track, James. Trulli's joined the track too, as has Coulthard, so all 10 of them should be going for it. There's 3 of them in the same corner.
Yeah, 10 cars out on the racetrack at the moment. One of them is David Coulthard. There's one of the McLarens as well.
Raikkonen's on a flyer as well. Raikkonen's on an absolute flyer, and he's going to find 3 guys trying to make space for themselves. This is where the moaning and upset is going to start. How far behind them is he? There are the 3 cars. You tend to be watching each other as well, rather than really noticing who's coming at you. And there emerges from the tunnel Kimi Raikkonen, launches it through the first chicane. Plenty of steering lock going on. And, well, he might just get away with this. He might be okay as they regroup near the end of the lap. He's flying. Look at this.
I think Rosberg's got the message. He's pressing on in front of him. This wasn't a hot lap for Rosberg before he saw Raikkonen in his mirrors, but it certainly is now. He's picked the pace up. It shouldn't hurt Raikkonen too much. Out of Antonino, he's close to the barriers. He's going for pole position. Raikkonen across the line. He gets 14.4. Nowhere near. That's 3/10 slower than he was first time round. So with 30 seconds to go, he won't have he might have one more chance. Michael Schumacher, though, is the fastest man so far on the racetrack in Sector 1. Here we are, provisionally on pole already. Can he go quicker?
Okay, you can see the back end of this top 10 have gone for the one stop, it looks to me. Barrichello, Coulthard, Rosberg, all down in the 16s. They've given up the chance at the first two rows of the grid. They'll be in great shape tomorrow, though. So Michael Schumacher faster in the first sector. Poor, he's made a mistake somewhere in the middle sector of this lap. 1 second
He's made
to go.
another one at the Rascasse, Martin, straight on. Missed the turn in.
Yeah, but that's going to spoil everybody else's lap too. The yellow flags are going to be out, and that's going to keep him pole position. I wouldn't be at all surprised. Everybody's going to have to get out of it with the yellow flags. Alonso's on a flyer too. Here he comes. Alonso's coming up to the zone now, and where are the yellow flags? They're rarely on the outside. Session's finished, of course, but he can still complete this lap. But it's been heavily compromised. That's Fisichella, sorry, but Fizzy then goes over the line, and a 14.3, a fraction faster. Alonso even faster in the middle of the lap. Will he get through the Rascasse zone? He will indeed. He's got through. Alonso might just do it, James.
Yep, out of the final corner goes Fernando Alonso. He keeps close to the pit wall side. He goes across the line. Is it pole?
Nope.
No, it's not. He misses out. He finishes up just 6/100ths of a second behind Michael Schumacher, who ends the session being pushed into the pit lane. There's no glory in that, but there's tremendous glory in pole position in Monte Carlo for Michael Schumacher. His third pole of the year, his 67th in his career, and an ignominious way to end the hour, but what a glorious hour for Michael Schumacher.
Yeah, he's locked the fronts a bit, the back steps out, he counter steers into it, gets onto the marbles on the brakes and keeps it out of the barrier. But this pretty much seals in pole position, doesn't it? Because it, for sure, with yellow flags waving, it compromises the other drivers.
Well, a great achievement for Michael Schumacher. He's on the front row of the grid with Alonso, but what about this for an achievement? Mark Webber has qualified the Williams in third place. So with the Cosworth V8 engine in the back, the boys from Northampton will be absolutely delighted with that. Yet again, Williams doing the job in qualifying. Let's hope Webber can turn that into a decent race result tomorrow. Raikkonen for McLaren is fourth, Fisichella fifth for Renault, sixth is Montoya for McLaren, and then the guys who didn't really try too hard to make an impression, clearly carrying a lot of fuel, Barrichello, Trulli, Coulthard and Rosberg, you can see the top 10. So, well, Michael Schumacher is going to try and equal Ayrton Senna tomorrow around the streets of Monte Carlo. He's going for his 6th Grand Prix victory, but he's got Fernando Alonso right alongside him.
Well, the grid is set. All the uncertainty of qualifying is over, to the mighty relief of the big-name drivers, Michael Schumacher on pole position in particular. Next, we'll examine the rather frantic events of the last hour here in Monaco.
Которых здесь многие ждали в квалификации, кстати, и лучшую Тойоту. Соответственно, Рубенс Баррикелло и Ярно Трулли лишь на 4-м ряду. Ну и на 5-м в итоге оказываются Дэвид Кулхард и Ника Росберг. Но для Кулхарда это в любом случае лучшая его квалификация в этом сезоне. Что же касается Ника Росберга, он попал, как и Марк Вебер, в последний сегмент, но там хорошего времени показать ему не удалось. Еще раз вкратце напомню, на 6-м ряду будут Ральф Шумахер и Кристиан Клин. На 7-м Витантонио Льюци и Дженсен Баттон. На 8-м, соответственно, 2 BMW, Жака Вильнева и Ника Хайтфельда, 2 Мидланда. На 9-м Кристиан Альберс и Тьяго Монтейро, Скотт Спид и Такума Сато 10-й ряд, и 11-й Франк Монтани и Филиппе Масса. 2 Феррари по 2 разным сторонам стартового поля. Михаэль Шумахер на пол-позишн, 67-й в своей карьере и 4-й здесь на Гран-при Монако. Филиппе Масса единственный, кто разбил свою машину в самом начале квалификации в повороте Ценде. Вот теперь посмотрим, что там произошло между Джанкарло Физикелло и Дэвидом Кулхардом. У Физика уже были трения с Вильнёвым. Может быть, теперь он что-то сделал. Что касается Михаэля Шумахера, также будет расследоваться. Видимо, телеметрию попросят с машиной, чтобы понять, почему именно она остановилась там, где она остановилась. Но вот на настоящий момент Михаэль на поле, а Масса на последнем 22-м месте. Если что-то изменится, естественно, вы это узнаете еще до старта, потому что старт завтра в 16:00 по московскому времени в прямом эфире на канале РЕН-ТВ. Но еще за час до него начнется передача «Обратный отсчет», где очень подробно мы остановимся и на итогах квалификаций, и, может быть, на каких-то судейских решениях, которые последуют по итогам этой сегодняшней квалификации. Итак, завтра не пропустите 7-й этап в прямом эфире «Жемчужина чемпионата» Гран-при Монако. Спасибо, друзья.
It's Michael Schumacher on provisional pole position for tomorrow's Monaco Grand Prix, 6/100ths of a second ahead of Fernando Alonso. Mark Webber, outstanding for Williams, grabbing the third spot on the grid in that second row alongside Kimi Raikkonen, last year's winner. But we say provisional pole position for Michael Schumacher because all the mayhem that was predicted for the first two sessions of qualifying here, well, that didn't materialise, but it all materialised, Mark Blundell, in the last minute of the final session. Michael Schumacher fastest, and then problems at the last corner. The question mark in the pit lane at the moment, were the problems deliberate?
Well, you look at what happened there, and you have to say there's got to be a little inkling of that for everybody down the pit lane, because Michael's done the pole position lap. He's obviously been radioed and communicated that is the fact, and he's parked there on the outside. But you watch the way that he gets there, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. He comes into that corner a little bit loose, and then he takes a tight line coming through. It's almost like he didn't make any effort whatsoever to turn a corner. He's just parked it so the car's a little bit wide, and it's going to reduce everybody's ability to get by.
Yes, the suggestion being he put himself in what he thought was pole position, and by taking that action, by sticking his car in the position that he did, it compromised everyone else.
It definitely compromised Alonso. You saw that Alonso came by, probably lost him a few hundredths of a second, which could have made the difference between that second and pole position what Michael Schumacher currently holds.
Alonso was flying. He had to adjust. He's among those protesting, I'm sure. So too is his team boss, Flavio Briatore. Let's hear from Flavio now.
Well, Flavio, you clearly feel that Michael did that deliberately.
Look like, no, I think everybody did that, not only me.
It's not very sporting of him. Why would he do that?
Ask him.
To spoil Fernando's lap? Do you believe it really did spoil Fernando's lap?
I mean, he's not touching the barrier, touching nothing. It's very, you know what I mean, he's just parking the car.
But Michael's a 7-time champion, a sportsman. Would he really do something like that?
I don't know. This is the way Ferrari manage, you know.
Yes, really, is it the kind of thing that Michael Schumacher is capable of? Does the mind think like that on a flying lap here at Monaco?
Yeah, don't forget, we've seen Michael Schumacher in a few situations. Back with Damon Hill, they would get a little bit, rough together, and he's quite calculating some of the decisions he makes. But we'll have to wait and see whether that actually is a physical thing there, what's happened. Sure to look at the data inside that car to see whether they feel there was any effort whatsoever made to turn that corner or not.
Press conference might be interesting. Let's get some views and let's hear what's being said in there right now.
Michael, a tense, breathtaking qualifying session. You look to have it perfectly planned in those first Q1 and Q2 when you went out, and then Q3, that incident at Rascasse.
Well, I mean, first of all, we had a good strategy. We were good on the pace. The first try was good, not perfect, and then naturally you go for the next one. I saw my sector times just basically on the same area, so I mean, it was hop or top. And it was unfortunately just a touch too much and came into, I think it's called Rascasse, the second last corner, locked up the front and then went wide. Yeah, it's. I wasn't sure what was going on after this because positioning of the cars and so on, I was not aware. And in the end, I checked with the guys what's the situation, where did we end up, because obviously I didn't expect to be sitting here right now in this position, and they said P1. So obviously I was glad with all this what happened.
What actually happened at the end of the incident? Did the engine stall or
No, initially not, and I tried to engage a reverse, tried to find reverse. But then obviously there was a traffic situation, so I didn't really want to back up just by myself without knowing what was coming around the corner. And then finally it stalled, yeah.
Well, a brilliant show of speed today, Saturday, with the track obviously picking up grip as it goes along.
Yeah.
Ferrari Bridgestone looking very, very strong now.
Yeah, we didn't look very good on Thursday, but it was a little bit down to the tyre choice. We changed our choice, and that put us back on the road. And yeah, since today, today, this morning, we seem to be back on pace, and we had very good long runs and so on. So we're pretty happy.
Well, it was always going to be congested in those first two qualifying sessions. You waited a little bit before you went out, and on both occasions it worked well for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to find the perfect spot, but I saw so many cars going out very early, and it was natural to find traffic in these moments, so I sort of timed it slightly different. When I saw the red flag, I thought, well, I maybe didn't take the right choice, but then it still came together, and the second qualifying session worked out fine. Just conserved and made sure we within the top 10, and then we gave it everything, obviously, after.
Congratulations. Fernando, don't need to remind you, you were purple on that first sector when Michael's incident occurred. Do you think you would have been on the pole?
Yes. Until the last corner, it was 3/10 quicker than my previous lap, so for sure it was not too difficult today.
Talk us through that. I mean, from your emotions, you obviously don't seem very happy about it. Do you think that things could have been handled any differently?
Well, I don't know. I do my maximum in the car, and today was okay. The car was performing really well. I think we have a good strategy and fantastic tire for the race performance. So we have to wait and see tomorrow. But after dominate all weekend, to lose the last lap, thanks an accident is not really a good moment. But things are like this.
Well, Fernando Alonso's opinion seems quite clear. Michael Schumacher, did he have a rather guilty look about him, a rather sheepish look about him? Let's get the latest from Ferrari. Ted Kravitz is down there. Ted.
Yeah, and Steve, this story is going to run right into tomorrow. We're waiting for Ross Brawn to come down those stairs. They're upstairs, but I tell you what, the Renault team manager, who we heard from at the top of the show, Steve Nielsen, and Pat Simmons, have gone to the stewards now. They've gone to the stewards and race director Charlie Whiting to talk this through. I asked Pat, are you going to put in a protest, try and get Michael's time deleted? And he said, well, we're going to talk about it. So that's clearly what's in Renault's mind. I've had other engineers from other teams come to me and say they are a disgrace. Ferrari are a disgrace for what they did deliberately. Every other team apart from Ferrari are sure that he did it on purpose. We'll wait and hear what Ross has to say.
Mark, what's going to happen next?
Well, I think we're going to have to get a body language expert in, aren't we, in a press conference? Because, as you just said, Steve, didn't he look a little bit sheepish? There just wasn't any sort of conviction there in what he was saying to us. And you kind of get the feeling that, yes, he maybe parked it there, and now he knows that it's the wrong thing to have done. But we'll have to see. Those guys there, Charlie Whiting, the stewards, they make a decision. They look at the data in the car, and they really see whether they feel that something was done deliberate or not.
None of this, of course, really involves Jenson Button, who's way back in 14th position. Sum up what you feel has gone wrong for Jenson today.
I just can't seem to feel that Jenson is really in touch of his car at this point in time. We can see the body language of Jenson Button out the car, and when he gets in it, he just can't get on top of it. And Rubens Barrichello's got the upper hand now. The psychology game, the tables are turned. Jenson desperately needs a strong result under his belt, and Honda don't seem to be giving him a car to work with. There's frustration coming out. You see that. He storms out the car. He wants to know what's going on. He can't seem to get the answers.
OK, Mark, thanks very much. That's it from Monaco. Just time to remind you swiftly of the big match that's coming up tonight. Of course, the climax of Soccer Aid, Robbie Williams versus Maradona at Old Trafford, 6:30, ITV1. And then tomorrow, well, the fantasy continues. This rather unreal world of the Monaco Grand Prix. At the heart of it all is a hugely challenging race, and our live build-up will start at 12 noon tomorrow. Jenson Button is way back, but other big names have survived all the problems of qualifying here. Michael Schumacher on pole position, we think. Join us tomorrow.